it's Kylie. Today I'm going to be doing my top books of 2019. The first of my top books of 2019 I don't physically own. I listened to it on audiobook, which I really enjoyed, and it was Heretics Anonymous by Katie Henry. In Heretics Anonymous, this boy starts at a Catholic school. He is an atheist, and he joins this group of what calls themselves Heretics Anonymous. Pretty much anybody can join Heretics Anonymous. It's basically just people who don't fit in at the school. One thing that I really enjoyed about this book that I didn't appreciate at the time is that I'm actually going to a Catholic college as somebody who's not Catholic at all, so I feel like I can kind of relate to the main character in that way. But I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I did really enjoy the audiobook. I think I would have enjoyed it just as much physically reading it. My next favorite book of 2019 was The Institute by Stephen King. This is probably one of my favorite Stephen King books that I've ever read. I flew through it even though it is almost 600 pages, about 560 pages. This one follows a boy whose parents are murdered and he's kidnapped and wakes up in this room that looks identical to his own room, except for it's not. He finds out that he is in a place where they kidnap telekinetic and telepathic kids to try to use them for their powers. Even if you're not normally a fan of Stephen King, I would give this book a try. It's very good. It doesn't have the horror element that a lot of his books do. I think it was the Goodreads winner for horror, but it really would not be classified as horror in my opinion. My next favorite book of 2019 is 5 Feet Apart by Rachel Lippincott, Mickey Daughtry, and Tobias Laconis. This book was also made into a movie this year, which I really enjoyed, with Cole Sprouse in it. In this book, there is a girl who has cystic fibrosis, and she is in the hospital. She meets a boy who also has cystic fibrosis. She's super into trying to extend her life and live despite her disease, and he's kind of just resigned to the fact that he's got this disease and that he is inevitably going to die, so he kind of ignores his treatments and he's not really doing the things that he needs to do to try to improve his life. And needless to say, they fall in love, which can be kind of a struggle if both of you have a very life-compromising disease. My next favorite book of 2019 is Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. I also read his next book that he came out with, Recursion, which I really enjoyed as well, but I liked this one way more. This book follows this man who is kidnapped by a version of himself and basically travels through tons and tons of alternate realities, and it's really just a mind-twisting novel. It's like a psychological sci-fi thriller, and I really loved it. My next favorite book of 2019 is Supermarket by Bobby Hall, which is Logic, if you didn't know. My husband read this book, and he absolutely does not read books, so of course I had to give it a try as well. It's not very long, it's a very fast read, and it's kind of a psychological thriller type read as well. If you don't know what it's about, I wouldn't read too much into it, just know that it's kind of a mind-fucking thriller. I think that the only thing I didn't like about it is I found it pretty predictable. I think the only reason that I was able to predict all of the outcomes is that I read what people were comparing it to, and that kind of gives it away if you've read both books. My next favorite book of 2019 was If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. I was so excited to read this book because I'd heard it compared to A Secret History by Donna Tartt a lot of times, which I definitely can see the comparisons. It does have this group of college kids who are super pretentious, and these ones are Shakespearean, where the ones in A Secret History are more Latin language, I think is what their group is. It does have a mystery element to it, some murder, and it is a very good plot twist. My next favorite book was The Dirt by Motley Crue. The movie came out on Netflix this year, which took the Netflix world by storm. I loved the movie. The book is obviously much better. They can fit a lot more of what they were up to in the book than they could in the movie. But if you enjoyed the movie or if you like Motley Crue, it's a really good read. My next favorite book of 2019 is actually the very first book that I finished in 2019, and that is Fight Club by Chuck Palahniuk. I think that everybody probably knows what Fight Club is about, and if you don't know what Fight Club is about, you don't really want to know what it's about going into it. The less you know, the more shocking the plot twist can be for you. If you've watched the movie, I would still go ahead and read the book. I think it's worth it. My final favorite of 2019 is actually an entire series. I read the entire Vampire Academy series in 2019, which is really saying something because I have a hard time finishing series, but I really, really liked this one. I don't know how it took me this long to read it. I thought it just sounded stupid. The Vampire Academy didn't really sound like something that I would be into, but I ended up absolutely loving it. If you have not read it and you ever have any sort of nostalgia for anything vampires, True Blood, Twilight, whatever it might be, despite the stupid name, I think that the Vampire Academy books were actually very well written, and I really, really loved them. I also really loved the romance in them, and it kept me going from book 1 to book 6 all in 1 year, which is not like me at all. Those are all my favorite books of 2019 in no particular order. I think if I had to choose a very favorite book of the year, it would be either If We Were Villains or Dark Matter. I read If We Were Villains much more recently, so I think that one's fresher in my mind, and I might say that that one is my favorite, but when I read Dark Matter, it absolutely blew me away. Let me know if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them, or what your favorite books of 2019 were. Thanks for watching. Bye.